Well, hello again. Today is the 14th of January, Tuesday, and the temperature is a little bit warm out there. It's still rainy today, but it's warm enough for me to come out here and do a little something anyway. Tomorrow being Wednesday is when our oldest grandson comes over, and we're going to work on putting together at least some of our front end down here. I've got all the parts laid out. Everything's been run across the wire brush, all the threads for all the bolts. I got them all in that blue container, that blue top container right there. So we're going to be good to go on that. It's just a matter of, shooting the breeze and getting the job done. Hopefully we get more of the job than shooting the breeze. Try to get both. But there's been something that's bugged me for quite a while here. This is the cap that goes over the top of this right here, which covers the shock. And you'll notice that this bolt right here is missing. It's been missing from day one. It needs to be replaced. Now these bolts here are spline bolts. You can see the spline right there. See the spline sticking up there through the hole? Well, trying to come up with one of those would not be easy. I could come up with them, I guess, but it wouldn't be cheap and all that. So I've decided to try to come up with something a little bit different. But underneath, they're real flat type bolt heads. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Notice that this one is recessed. This one is not recessed, but they're very flat on the ends. And it's kind of interesting as to why this one is recessed. I don't know. But this one was missing, and I need to come up with something to replace it with. It's not necessary, but I want to have the bolt in there. It just looks a whole lot better. So how am I going to come up with something that is flat like that? I can search around, but it would take me forever. And I don't want to spend a fortune on a spline bolt if I can get around the problem cheaper. So here's my brilliant plan for the fix. This is a standard carriage bolt, I think they call these things. I can flatten this down a little bit more on my grinder, my new bench grinder, if I wanted to. I probably will. I'll flatten it down somewhat. I'm not going to go crazy on it, but I want to flatten the center hump down. And this right here, I can take my rotary tool, my Black & Decker rotary tool with a disc, and I can grind these down a little bit too and put a better point on them. And maybe I can take and tap it up from the bottom up through the hole and tap it up into there, and I might put a little epoxy around there to hold it, if I can jam it up in there with a hammer with some epoxy to also hold it, that would solve my problem completely. So I don't know if that plan is going to work, but this bolt is the right size. It works perfectly. It goes right down in there and it almost goes through. Almost, but not quite. I have to file down that or grind down that square thing. So this is going to be an interesting effort in futility. All right, how about that? It looks nice and flat across there. Well, it wasn't hot, just didn't take me long to look at it. I'm kind of happy. I have taken down the underside of the head of the bolt. I don't know, I may have to take it down. It's one of these deals where you got to run out there and test fit it and then come back in, grind a little more, go out there and test fit it. Let's see how well this fits. We're not quite there yet. Got to take it down a little bit more all the way around. I think I've about got it. She goes up in from the bottom and she won't turn left and right, but she goes almost all the way into the hole. And so right now I need to clean up all the rust down in the hole. I'm going to go down underneath and I'll scrub down there. This is just a little wire brush. I'm going to clean out as much as I can for that JB Weld I'm going to be using JB Weld instead of epoxy. Go ahead and put quite a bit of gob on it. This is actually pretty thick. It goes down in there quite a ways before I get to the bottom. See if I can show you that. It's a pretty thick piece of metal, see it? So I can put quite a bit of JB Weld down in that hole, which will really help me. These don't require a lot of torque. They tighten up. I'll go ahead and clean up these too so you can see how much rust is on those as well. But I want to clean it up as much as possible. We are ready to put a nice big gob of JB Weld all the way around that. I'll probably build it up just about to the bottom of the threads, maybe a little bit, maybe one or two threads above. I don't know. It depends on how I feel. Alright, let's see what happens now. Let's get it up in there from the bottom under the fender. I'm going to shove it up through. Well, I think that's got it. I'm going to leave this nut on here to hold the bolt in place until the glue dries. Now here's what it looks like from up underneath. Nice and neat. It'll work. So let's see how well we fit here. Perfect. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Couldn't ask for better. Okay, I'm happy. Another job done. Once we get the front end put back in, I'm going to buy some brake lines and cut and flare the ends myself. But when you're dealing with brake lines, you have to do what's called a double flare, and it requires a double flaring toolkit. And that's what this is. This is a flaring toolkit double. Now you can flare it, non-double, but you need the double because it requires two kinds of compressions with this tool right here. And of course these up here. So I went out and bought one. They're not that expensive. I think I got this one at O'Reilly. Didn't hardly cost anything. The only thing I'll need is a vise to hold this in, this little end. You clamp in the vise, and that way you got it sticking out to the side, and you can go ahead and hold it in place with the vise. And our good friend and subscriber Johnny Umphris, who lives up in northern Arkansas, our Arkansas Yankee, he let me know that he has an extra vise that he'd be willing to donate to the cause, and I'm not going to turn him down on that. He said he got this really big vise, and he didn't need the smaller vise. He has a 3-inch vise, which will work perfect for this, and I'll be able to do my own flaring. And when the time comes, we'll go ahead and flare. I'll show you how to flare this. Now, there's plenty of YouTube videos to show you how to do it, but I'll get down to the nitty-gritty, show you how to do each one. There's one YouTube video that's really very, very good, and he does a really good job of showing you how to do it. Now, this is a double flare. See, it just doesn't take the end of the tube, You just don't flare it out. And what you have to do is you have to roll it back in on itself. Can you see that right there? Let me see. See it? You flare it out, and then you have to scrunch it back down in all the way around on itself, and that's called a double flare. And that's what this thing will be used for. So we'll be getting to that after I get, the majority or 99.9% of the front end put back together. Well, here's our oldest grandson, James, hard at it. He's working on the lower control arm right now, putting in the lower ball joint. We've already got the upper control arm already in above his head there. And it won't be long, we'll be putting the spindle in. So this is moving along pretty smooth. We've only been at this, what, a half an hour or so?
Something like that.
Yeah, we're doing real good. But right now I've got to go in the house, and I am going to cook some French toast for us. You ready for some French toast?
I am, actually.
I knew you would be. We are in the process of compressing our coil spring back together so we can get it up in there. And it's been not as cooperative as I would like it to be, but this is our second shot at it. We didn't quite get the two hooks at the bottom down there low enough, but we're getting there. Maybe a few more seconds of turning this big bolt in the center, turning that thing down. I think maybe it'll compress it enough. Now they say you're not supposed to use an air impact wrench on this. You're supposed to do it with a ratchet, an extension, and a socket. But that's not going to fly with me. We've been using the old air impact wrench on it. It's a whole lot easier. As you can see, all of the parts are now gone off that blue tarp, with the exception of one little old bolt. And we cannot figure out where that bolt goes. It's just the weirdest thing. It goes somewhere up underneath the front end. Let me get a little focus here. Let me back up a little bit. It goes somewhere. It probably has to do with the brake caliper or something. Good sized bolt. We'll figure it out. Not to worry. Not the end of the world. We don't worry about stuff like that. We will find it. We'll just set that baby right there so we know where it's at. It'll bug me to death until I find out where it goes. Well, that's it for now, folks. I didn't show every little step to reinstalling everything because it's just the opposite of the way we took it apart. when we first took it up, when we first took it apart in the early part of this series. So if you're just now, chiming in or appearing in the series and watching the first few videos, just go back to the beginning of the series. You'll see how we took everything apart, bit by bit, step by step. Everything was covered. All we did was do it in reverse. Still got a tie rod end to clean up, and then we'll go ahead and hook it to this rod right here. I want to go back and double check on all the torques, on all the nuts, make sure everything's torqued the way it's supposed to be. And before I go ahead and put there's a backing plate needs to go on here. And then of course I have to clean the bearings and everything for the rotor, put that on, and there's several things that need to be done, small stuff, but it's the next day, like I said, and it's a little cool out here. Yesterday was great. God, we were out here in t-shirts, So anyway, hope you enjoyed it. I don't know when the next video will be up. It'll all depend on the weather and my mood. If it if the temperature goes, a lot of you all say, what is this guy yelling about when the temperature is 45 to 50 degrees? Well, no, that is not cold to many of you, but it's freezing to me. Okay, that's the way it is. Too bad. I want the temperature 60 or above, preferably 65 or above. I can really work then. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed it. Until next time, this is John. Tell you what, let's take a look at the other side before we close out the video. This is what we started with on the side I just finished up. It was really a mess. Lots of rust. I even have a ton of, got a whole bunch of mud wasp mess up in this area here. Look at that mess up in there. Nothing but mud wasp nests. They're everywhere. Anyway, this is how bad the other side looked when we first started. Hopefully I'll be able to make this side look just as good as the other side. It's not going to be perfect, of course not. But we'll do our absolute best. Meanwhile, I got to try to figure out where that bolt comes from.